The rejection. The mate bond broken. The full moon hung heavy over the Silver Moon Pack territory, casting silver shadows across the grand celebration hall. Tonight was the mating ceremony, where wolves who had found their destined mates would complete their bonds before the entire pack. Arya Winters stood in the corner of the hall, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. She had felt it 3 days ago. The pull. The undeniable connection that every wolf dreamed of finding. Her mate was here in this very pack, and tonight she would finally discover who he was. Being an Omega, the lowest rank in the pack hierarchy, Arya had never dared to dream that her mate might be someone important. She only hoped he would be kind. Someone who would see past her rank and love her for who she was. The scent hit her like a lightning bolt. Pine trees after rain. Leather and midnight air. Her wolf stirred inside her, whimpering with recognition and joy. Mate, mate, mate. The word echoed through her very soul. Arya's eyes searched the crowd frantically until they landed on him. Alpha Cade Blackwood stood at the center of the hall, surrounded by his beta and gamma. He was magnificent, everything an alpha should be. Tall and powerful, with dark hair and eyes like storm clouds. He commanded the room without even trying. Every wolf instinctively turned toward him, drawn to his dominance and strength. And he was her mate. Arya felt tears prick her eyes. The moon goddess had blessed her beyond measure. Despite her low rank, despite her weakness, she had been given the most powerful wolf in the territory as her destined partner. Surely this meant something. Surely this meant her life was about to change. She began walking toward him, her legs trembling. The crowd seemed to part before her, though she knew it was just coincidence. Wolves moved and talked, unaware of the life-changing moment happening in their midst. As she got closer, she saw Cade stiffen. His nostrils flared. He had caught her scent. Their eyes met across the remaining distance. For one perfect, beautiful moment, Arya saw recognition flash in his gaze. The mate bond snapped fully into place between them, a golden thread connecting their souls. She felt his strength, his power, and underneath it all, she felt his wolf recognize hers. The bond was real. It was perfect. It was everything she had ever dreamed of. Then his expression changed. The warmth drained from his eyes, replaced by something cold and calculating. His jaw clenched, his hands fisted at his sides, and Arya felt the first flutter of fear in her stomach. "No," Cade said, the single word cutting through the noise of the celebration like a knife. The conversations around them died. Wolves turned to stare. This cannot be. Arya stopped walking, frozen 3 feet away from him. "Alpha Cade, you are Omega," he stated, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. The judgment in his tone made her flinch. The moon goddess must have made a mistake. "There are no mistakes in mate bonds," Arya whispered, her voice shaking. "Please, I know I am not what you expected, but—" "You are weak," Cade interrupted, stepping toward her. His dominance pressed against her like a physical weight, making her want to bare her neck in submission. "You have no wolf strength. You cannot fight. You cannot lead. You cannot even shift properly. Your wolf is barely the size of a normal dog." Tears streamed down Arya's face now, but she refused to look away from him. "I can learn. I can train. Please do not do this." "The mate bond. The mate bond is a cruel joke," Cade snarled. His eyes flashed with his wolf, and for a moment, Arya thought he might actually be in pain. The rejection of a mate bond hurt both parties. But then his expression hardened again. "I, Cade Blackwood, Alpha of the Silver Moon Pack, reject you, Arya Winters, as my mate and Luna." The words hit her like a physical blow. The pain of rejection. Arya collapsed to her knees, a scream tearing from her throat. The mate bond, that beautiful golden thread, began to burn. It felt like acid in her veins, like fire consuming her from the inside out. Her wolf howled in agony, a sound of such pure heartbreak that several wolves in the crowd whimpered in sympathy. Arya gasped, trying to breathe through the pain. She was supposed to accept the rejection. That was how it worked. The rejected party had to speak the words of acceptance to fully sever the bond. But she could not make herself say them. Despite the agony, despite the humiliation, her wolf refused to let go. "Accept it," Cade commanded, his alpha voice washing over her. Even through her pain, Arya felt the compulsion of his order. As an Omega, she had no defense against an alpha command. She sobbed, her body shaking. "I accept your rejection." The mate bond shattered. If the rejection had felt like fire, the severing felt like death. Arya's vision went white. She felt something inside her break, something fundamental and necessary. Her wolf retreated so far into her mind that Arya could barely feel her presence. The world spun. She heard voices around her, felt hands trying to help her up, but everything seemed distant and unreal. When her vision finally cleared, she found herself looking up at Cade. He stood over her, his face carefully blank. But she could see the slight tension around his eyes, the way his hand pressed against his chest. He was hurting too. The rejection hurt both parties, but the rejected one always suffered more. "Remove her from the hall," Cade ordered, turning away. "The ceremony will continue." The humiliation. 2 guards helped Arya to her feet, supporting her weight as her legs refused to work properly. They began to lead her toward the exit, but before they could reach the doors, a voice rang out across the hall. "My alpha." The voice was feminine, strong, and confident. Arya turned her head weakly to see Selena Frost pushing through the crowd. Selena was everything Arya was not. Tall, beautiful, with fiery red hair and the build of a warrior. She was the pack's best female fighter, a beta-ranked wolf with enough power to make even some alphas nervous. Selena strode right up to Cade, her green eyes gleaming with ambition. "Now that you have dealt with that unfortunate situation," she said, casting a dismissive glance at Arya, "perhaps we should discuss more suitable arrangements for your Luna." Cade's expression shifted, something calculating entering his gaze as he looked at Selena. "You have a suggestion?" "I offer myself," Selena said boldly, placing her hand on Cade's chest. Several wolves gasped. It was a brazen move, but Selena had never been one to hold back. "I am strong. I am a proven warrior. I can lead beside you. I can give you strong heirs. I am everything your pack needs in a Luna." Arya watched in horror as Cade considered this. She wanted to scream, to tell him that Selena was not his mate, that this was wrong, that the moon goddess had chosen her for a reason. But her voice would not work. She could only watch as her worst nightmare unfolded before her eyes. "You make a valid point," Cade said slowly. Then, in front of the entire pack, he took Selena's hand. "Selena Frost, I choose you as my Luna. Will you accept?" "I accept," Selena said immediately, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. She looked directly at Arya as she spoke, her message clear. "You lost. I won." The pack erupted in cheers. Some wolves looked uncomfortable, glancing at Arya with pity, but most seemed excited about the announcement. Selena was popular, respected, and powerful. She would make a strong Luna. The fact that she was not Cade's true mate barely seemed to matter. "Get her out of here," Cade said quietly to the guards, still not looking at Arya. "Take her to her quarters. We will discuss her future tomorrow." The guards dragged Arya from the hall. Behind her, she could hear the celebration starting up again, louder than before. Music played. Wolves laughed and talked. Within minutes, it was as if her rejection had never happened. As if her broken heart and shattered bond meant nothing at all. The banishment. Arya spent the night in her small room in the Omega quarters, crying until she had no tears left. Her wolf was silent, still retreating from the pain of the rejection. Arya had never felt so alone. She had no family. Her parents had died when she was young, killed in a rogue attack. She had no close friends. Omegas were not encouraged to form bonds with higher-ranked wolves, and the other Omegas avoided her because she was even weaker than them. When dawn broke, 2 guards came to her door. "The Alpha wants to see you," one of them said, his voice not unkind. He had been one of the wolves who looked at her with pity last night. Arya followed them silently to Cade's office. She felt numb, hollow, as if all her emotions had been burned away by the pain. When she entered the office, she found Cade sitting behind his desk with Selena standing beside him, her hand possessively on his shoulder. "Arya Winters," Cade began, his voice formal and cold. "Your presence in this pack has become problematic." "Problematic," Arya repeated, her voice hoarse from crying. "Your existence is a reminder of an unfortunate mistake," Selena said, her tone condescending. "The pack needs to move forward with strong leadership. They need to accept me as their Luna. That will be difficult if you are here. A constant reminder of the mate bond my alpha was forced to reject." "So what are you saying?" Arya asked, though she already knew. She could see it in their eyes. "I am banishing you from the Silvermoon pack," Cade said flatly. "You have until noon to gather your belongings and leave our territory. If you are found within our borders after that time, you will be treated as a rogue and dealt with accordingly." Arya stared at him, searching for any sign of the mate bond they had shared, even briefly, any hint of regret or sorrow. But Cade's face was a mask of stone. Whatever pain he had felt from the rejection, he had clearly decided to bury it beneath his duty as alpha. "Where am I supposed to go?" Arya asked quietly. "I have no other pack, no family. I am Omega. No other pack will accept me." "That is not my concern," Cade said, though something flickered in his eyes. "Guilt, maybe, or perhaps just annoyance. You are no longer my responsibility." "Actually," Selena said, a cruel smile playing on her lips, "I have a suggestion. There is a town at the edge of the neutral territories, a place where rogues and packless wolves gather. I am sure you will fit right in there with the other rejects and failures." The departure. Arya packed her few belongings in a small backpack. She owned almost nothing. A few changes of clothes, a photograph of her parents, a necklace her mother had given her before she died. That was it. Her entire life fit into a single bag. As noon approached, Arya made her way to the pack borders. She had hoped to leave quietly, but a small crowd had gathered. Some wolves watched with pity, others with satisfaction. Selena stood at the front, her arm linked with Cade's, looking like she had already won everything worth having. Cade himself looked straight ahead, refusing to meet Arya's eyes. "Wait!" a voice called out. An elderly woman pushed through the crowd. Elder Miriam, one of the pack's oldest members. She approached Arya slowly, leaning on her cane. "Child," Elder Miriam said softly, her eyes kind, "I am sorry for what has happened to you. It is wrong. The moon goddess does not make mistakes with mate bonds." "Thank you, Elder," Arya whispered. Elder Miriam pressed something into Arya's hand. A small stone pendant on a leather cord. "This belonged to my grandmother. It is said to bring protection and guidance to those who are lost. Take it. Your journey is not over, child. This is not your ending. It is your beginning." Before Arya could respond, a guard cleared his throat. "It is time. You must leave now." Arya clutched the pendant in her hand and took her first step beyond the pack borders. Each step felt like walking through broken glass. She was leaving behind the only home she had ever known. The pain of the rejected mate bond throbbed in her chest like an open wound. She walked for hours, following the path Selena had mentioned. The path to the rogue town, to the place where failures and rejects went to fade away and be forgotten. The mysterious stranger. Night was falling when Arya finally collapsed. She had walked as far as her exhausted body could manage. The adrenaline that had carried her through the day was gone, leaving only emptiness and pain. She found herself in a small clearing in the forest, far from any pack territory. Arya sat against a tree, looking up at the moon through the branches. The same moon that had witnessed her rejection. The same moon that had supposedly chosen Cade to be her mate. "Why?" she whispered to the moon goddess. "Why give me a mate only to take him away? Why make me so weak? What is the purpose of this pain?" The moon offered no answers. "Because you are not meant to be weak," a voice said from the shadows. Arya jumped to her feet, her heart racing. A figure emerged from the trees, moving with a grace that spoke of tremendous power. They wore a dark hooded cloak that hid their features, but their presence was overwhelming. This was no ordinary wolf. "Who are you?" Arya demanded, trying to sound brave despite her fear. "I am someone who has been watching you, Arya Winters," the figure said. Their voice was neither male nor female, old nor young. It seemed to echo with ancient power. "I am someone who sees what you could become, rather than what you are now." "I do not understand," Arya said, pressing back against the tree. The figure moved closer, and Arya caught a glimpse of eyes beneath the hood. They glowed with an otherworldly silver light. "You were rejected because you are weak. That is what your alpha said, yes?" Arya nodded, tears threatening again. "What if I told you that you do not have to be weak? What if I told you that your omega status is not a limitation, but an untapped potential? What if I told you that I could train you to become something more powerful than any alpha wolf?" "That is impossible," Arya whispered. "Omegas cannot become strong. It is our nature. Our wolf is too small, too weak." "Your wolf is sleeping, child," the figure said gently. "Dormant, waiting for the right catalyst to awaken. The rejection you suffered, the pain you endured, that was the catalyst. Your wolf is not weak. She has been waiting for you to need her strength." Arya felt something stir deep inside her. Her wolf, which had been silent since the rejection, suddenly lifted her head. She felt different, angry, hurt, but also awake, more awake than she had ever been. "Who are you?" Arya asked again. The figure pulled back their hood, revealing a face that seemed to shift between ages and genders, as if they were not quite solid. "I am Elder Thorn, the last of the Shadow Walkers, an ancient order of wolf warriors who served the moon goddess directly. We were thought to be extinct, but I remain, and I have been searching for a student, someone worthy of learning our ways, someone who has been broken down completely so they can be rebuilt into something new." "Why me?" Arya asked. "I am nobody. Nothing." "You are everything," Elder Thorn said, their silver eyes blazing. "You are a rejected mate who survived. You are an omega who refuses to die. You are a wolf who has hit the bottom and is now ready to rise. You are exactly who I have been searching for." They extended their hand toward Arya. "Come with me. Train with me. Learn the ancient ways. And when you are ready, you can return to those who cast you out. But not as the weak omega they rejected. As something far more powerful. As someone they will fear and respect. As someone who will make them regret every moment of what they did to you." The choice. Arya stared at the offered hand. Part of her wanted to refuse, to just fade away into the rogue town and forget about her old life. Forget about Cade and Selena and the pack that had thrown her away like trash. But another part of her, the part where her wolf was now pacing and snarling, wanted revenge. Wanted to prove them wrong. Wanted to show Cade exactly what he had rejected. "If I do this," Arya said slowly, "if I train with you and become stronger, what then? What am I supposed to do with that power?" "That will be your choice," Elder Thorn said. "I will teach you. I will help you unlock your potential. But what you do with it afterward is entirely up to you. Revenge, redemption, or simply a new beginning. The path is yours to choose." Arya thought about Cade's cold eyes, Selena's triumphant smile, the guards dragging her from the hall, the pack watching her banishment with pity or satisfaction. She thought about being called weak, being called a mistake, being told she was not good enough. Her wolf snarled in her mind. "Show them. Prove them wrong. Make them see." "How long will the training take?" Arya asked. "As long as it needs to," Elder Thorn replied. "Years, perhaps. True strength cannot be rushed." Arya took a deep breath. Then she reached out and grasped Elder Thorn's hand. The moment their skin touched, power surged through Arya like lightning. She gasped as her wolf roared to life, truly awake for the first time. She felt strength flowing through her muscles, felt her senses sharpen, felt something fundamental change deep in her core. What is happening?" Arya gasped. Your true self is waking up, Elder Thorn said with a smile. Welcome, Arya Winters, to the first day of your new life. When we are done, when you have completed your training, you will return to the Silvermoon Pack. But not as the Omega they rejected, as an alpha in your own right, as a force of nature they cannot ignore. Arya felt tears stream down her face, but these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of hope, of rage, of determination. I am ready, she said, her voice stronger than it had ever been. Teach me everything. Make me strong. Make me powerful. Make me into someone they will never forget. Elder Thorn's smile widened. Oh child, I will make you into someone they will fear to remember. Come. We have much work to do. Your rejection was not your ending. It was your beginning. And what a glorious beginning it will be. As Arya followed Elder Thorn into the darkness of the forest, she took one last look at the moon above. Thank you, she whispered to the moon goddess. Thank you for breaking me. Now I can rebuild myself into something unbreakable. Behind her, the Silvermoon Pack territory lay quiet and peaceful, unaware that in 5 years' time, a storm would return to their borders. A storm named Arya Winters. And when she came back, nothing would ever be the same again. 5 years later, the return. The Council Hall of the Northern Territories was filled with representatives from every major pack in the region. Alphas, betas, and delegates sat in a wide circle, discussing border disputes, trade agreements, and the growing threat of rogue attacks that had been plaguing their lands for months. The atmosphere was tense, voices raised in argument as different packs blamed each other for the security failures. Alpha Cade Blackwood sat in his designated seat, looking every bit the powerful leader he had become. 5 years had been good to him in some ways. His pack was strong, his borders secure, and his Luna, Selena, sat beside him looking regal and proud. But there were shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights, and a tension in his jaw that suggested not everything was as perfect as it appeared. The truth was that Cade had not had a peaceful night's sleep since the rejection. His wolf was restless, constantly pacing, constantly searching for something. The mate bond might have been severed, but the memory of it haunted him like a ghost. He had made the right choice, he told himself. Selena was strong, capable, and exactly what his pack needed. The fact that she was not his true mate was irrelevant. Or so he kept telling himself. The rogue problem is getting worse, Beta Marcus from the Riverside pack was saying, his voice cutting through Cade's thoughts. We have lost 3 patrols in the last month alone. These are not normal rogues. They are organized, well-trained, and they fight with a strategy we have never seen before. Perhaps if you trained your warriors better, they would not be so easily defeated, Selena said coldly, her voice dripping with condescension. Several alphas bristled at her tone, but Cade did not correct her. He had learned over the years that it was easier to let Selena speak her mind than to try to control her. The Luna makes a valid point, Alpha Derek of the Mountain Crest Pack said, though his tone suggested he found Selena's attitude distasteful. We all need to strengthen our defenses. But Marcus is right. These rogues are different. It is almost as if they are being led by someone with alpha-level intelligence.
Impossible, Selena scoffed.
Rogues are mindless beasts. They have no. The massive doors to the council hall suddenly burst open with a thunderous bang that echoed through the chamber. Every wolf in the room jumped to their feet, hands going to weapons, dominance flaring as they prepared for an attack. But no attack came. Instead, a figure walked calmly through the doorway, flanked by 4 wolves whose power was so intense it made the air shimmer. The figure in the center was female, dressed in black leather armor that hugged her athletic form. She wore her dark brown hair in a long braid down her back, and her hazel eyes swept the room with an authority that made even the alpha's presence straighten unconsciously. Cade's wolf suddenly went insane inside him, howling and throwing itself against the walls of his mind. His heart began to race, his breathing became shallow, and a scent hit him like a physical blow. Wildflowers and rain, lightning and honey. A scent he remembered from 5 years ago, but different now. Stronger, more potent, more Dangerous. No, he whispered, his eyes widening in shock. It cannot be. The woman smiled, and it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who had finally cornered her prey. Hello, Cade, Arya Winters said, her voice no longer the timid whisper he remembered. It was strong, clear, and filled with power that made his wolf whimper with recognition and regret. Did you miss me? The transformation revealed. The council hall erupted in chaos. Wolves shouted questions, demanded to know who this intruder was, why she dared to interrupt their meeting. But Cade could not hear any of it. He was frozen, staring at the woman who had once been the weak Omega he rejected. She was completely transformed. Where she had once been small and fragile, she now stood tall and strong, her body lean and muscular like a trained warrior. Where she had once cowered under dominance, she now radiated her own power that pushed back against every alpha in the room. Where she had once been invisible, she now commanded attention from every single wolf present. Impossible, Selena breathed, her face going pale as she recognized Arya. You are supposed to be dead. We heard the rogues got you. Oh, the rogues tried, Arya said casually, walking further into the room. Her 4 guards fanned out behind her, their eyes scanning for threats. Cade noticed that each of them moved with the same unusual grace that Arya now possessed. They were trained, disciplined, and deadly. But as you can see, I am very much alive. In fact, I have never been better. Who are you? Alpha Derek demanded, his dominance pressing toward Arya. You walk into our council without invitation. Without. His voice cut off abruptly as Arya's own dominance flared, slamming into his like a tidal wave. Derek actually stumbled backward, his eyes wide with shock. Every wolf in the room felt it. The sheer power radiating from this unknown female was incredible. It was not the raw, chaotic power of a typical alpha. It was controlled, refined, and absolutely overwhelming. I am Alpha Arya Winters, she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall, leader of the Shadow Walker Pack. And I am here to offer my assistance with your little rogue problem. Shadow Walker Pack? Beta Marcus repeated, confusion clear on his face. I have never heard of such a pack. That is because we prefer to operate outside the view of the traditional pack structure, Arya explained, her eyes never leaving Cade's face. She was enjoying his shock, his disbelief. We are descendants of an ancient order, trained in ways that have been lost to modern wolves. We are warriors, strategists, and hunters, and we are very, very good at what we do. This is absurd, Selena said, standing up and moving to Cade's side possessively. You cannot just walk in here and claim to be an alpha. You are an omega. You were rejected and banished. You have no authority, no. I was an omega, Arya interrupted calmly. Past tense. 5 years ago, I was weak, untrained, and completely unaware of my own potential. But that omega died the day she was rejected. What stands before you now is something else entirely. She turned her attention to the assembled alphas. The rogues attacking your territories are not random. They are scouts and soldiers of a much larger force. A rogue alpha named Damien has been building an army in the neutral territories. He plans to attack and conquer the northern territories pack by pack, starting with the weakest. How do you know this? Alpha Derek asked, his earlier hostility replaced by cautious interest. Because my pack has been tracking Damien for 6 months, Arya replied. We specialize in dealing with threats that traditional packs cannot handle. We have infiltrated his organization, mapped his forces, and identified his strategy. And I am here to offer you a chance to stop him before he destroys everything you have built. The alliance proposal. Cade finally found his voice. Why would you help us? He asked hoarsely. Especially after what happened. Arya's eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, Cade saw a flash of the pain he had caused her 5 years ago. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by cold calculation. Because despite my personal feelings, I am not going to stand by and watch innocent wolves die, she said. Damien does not discriminate. He will kill everyone in his path. Alphas, betas, omegas, children. Everyone. I might have issues with certain individuals in this room, but I am not going to let a madman slaughter thousands of wolves just to satisfy my desire for revenge. How noble, Selena said sarcastically. And what do you want in return for this generous offer? Arya smiled again, that predatory expression that made several wolves shift uncomfortably. In return for my pack's assistance in defeating Damien, I want recognition. I want the Shadow Walker pack to be acknowledged as an official pack with full rights and territory in the Northern Territories. I want a seat on this council. And I want a formal apology from the Silver Moon pack for my wrongful banishment. The room exploded in outrage. Multiple alphas shouted objections. Selena looked like she wanted to rip Arya's throat out, but Cade held up his hand, and surprisingly, the room quieted. You are asking for a great deal, Cade said carefully. Territory, recognition, and an apology. That is not a simple request. Neither is saving your packs from annihilation, Arya countered. Damien's army numbers over 300 rogue wolves, all of them trained fighters. When he attacks, and he will attack within the next month, your combined forces will not be enough to stop him. You need us. You need our knowledge, our strategy, and our skills. So yes, I am asking for a great deal, because what I am offering in return is your survival. Alpha Derek stepped forward, his expression thoughtful. How do we know you are telling the truth? How do we know this is not some elaborate trick? You do not, Arya said honestly. You will have to decide whether to trust me, but I can offer proof of Damien's forces. My scouts have taken photographs, documented patrol routes, and identified key members of his army. I can show you everything we have gathered. She pulled a folder from one of her guards and tossed it onto the council table. Derek picked it up and began flipping through the contents. His expression grew darker with each page he turned. By the moon goddess, he breathed. This is extensive intelligence. If this is accurate, then we are in far more danger than we realized. It is accurate, Arya assured him. Every piece of information in that folder has been verified multiple times. Damien is not playing games. He is building an empire, and your territories are his foundation. Cade's internal struggle. While the other alphas examined the folder and debated Arya's proposal, Cade could not take his eyes off her. This woman, this powerful alpha standing before him, was his rejected mate. The Omega he had cast aside because she was weak. Except she had never been weak. She had been dormant, waiting for the right moment to bloom into her true potential. His wolf was in agony. It recognized Arya as their mate, even though the bond had been severed. It howled and clawed, begging Cade to go to her, to apologize, to beg for forgiveness. But Cade's pride held him back. He was an alpha. He had made his choice. He had chosen Selena. You have changed, Cade said quietly, too low for most of the others to hear over their arguing. Arya's eyes met his, and for a moment, the mask of cold authority slipped. He saw the hurt, the anger, and the sadness that still lived inside her. You made sure of that, she replied softly. The girl you rejected died in the forest 5 years ago. I am what rose from her ashes. Cade struggled to find words. I did what I thought was best for my pack. No, Arya said, her voice hardening. You did what was easiest. You took the path of least resistance. You chose power and status over the bond the moon goddess herself created. You rejected your true mate because you were afraid of what the pack would think. That was not strength, Cade. That was cowardice. The words hit him like a physical blow. That is not fair. You do not understand the pressure of being an alpha, the responsibility. I am an alpha now, Arya interrupted. I understand perfectly, and I would never reject my mate just to maintain my image. The fact that you did tells me everything I need to know about the kind of leader you really are. Before Cade could respond, Selena's voice cut through their conversation. Are you two quite finished? She asked coldly. We have more important matters to discuss than your past mistakes. My alpha. The unexpected arrival. Just as the council was about to vote on Arya's proposal, another presence made itself known. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. The wolves all turned toward the doorway as another figure entered. This man was tall and broad-shouldered, with silver-streaked black hair and eyes like molten gold. He wore a long coat that swept behind him as he walked, and his presence was so commanding that even Arya's powerful dominance seemed to bend around him like water flowing around a stone. Alpha Zane Nightshade, Alpha Derek said, bowing his head respectfully. We were not expecting you. Cade felt his stomach drop. Zane Nightshade was the alpha of the Midnight Crest Pack, the most powerful pack in the entire continent. He rarely involved himself in the affairs of smaller packs, preferring to rule his vast territory from his mountain fortress. For him to appear here now meant something significant was happening. I received word that my mate was in danger, Zane said, his deep voice resonating through the hall. So naturally I came. Every eye in the room turned to follow Zane's gaze. He was looking directly at Arya. Your mate, Cade repeated, his voice strangled. That is impossible. Arya was Zane interrupted, moving to stand beside Arya with a possessive grace. Past tense. You rejected her. You severed the bond. The moon goddess does not leave her children without comfort. She granted Arya a second chance, mate. Me. Arya looked up at Zane, and Cade saw something in her expression that made his heart crack. It was trust, warmth, affection, the kind of look she had once given him in the brief moment before he rejected her.